I've pressed record.
Oh.
We're recording. Hello and welcome to the very first, as yet untitled, chat show that we're doing. Chat shit show. That's the name. It's the chat shit show where we pick some of our favorite games, some of our not so favorite games, and we decide to talk about them. And today's inaugural episode, we're covering Fallout. We're doing some Fallout shit. Isn't that right, Aaron?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the franchise as a whole, all the way back to the original Fallout, and then up until the masterpiece that is 76, shall we say?
Yes. Introductions. If you're here, you probably know who I am. I'm Sam, also known as Sinister Clicker, and my friend here is Aaron, also known as Eclipse, also known as LOR Eclipse. Now, Aaron, what do you do?
I am a professional RLCS coach in Rocket League, and I coach Team Endpoint. So I work for Team Endpoint as a Rocket League coach.
Look, we got a big shot in the chat, everyone. We're friends. We're friends, aren't we?
Yep.
I got contact.
Some would say that. Some would say that. Some would call us something else. But we're friends.
Fuck it. Why not? Why the fuck not? Okay.
Today we're friends. In about an hour, we're not.
Yeah, for this 1 hour, we've managed to like scrape together some kind of friendship to fucking do this shit. Okay, Fallout. Where do you want to begin with Fallout? Where do you want to start?
Like, this show is going to be primarily like us looking at like massive changes and like the progression of franchises. So we got to look at the start, right? So we got to start from big old Fallout numero uno. Which is definitely a game. I'll throw 2 in there as well. So it's because they're very similar games in terms of like changes. There's not much that goes different from them. They're both turn-based action like CRPGs, and they're both games that we have never completed, right?
Admittedly, yes. Fallout 1. I still have every intention of going back to eventually to beat. But
well, okay, hang on.
Ooh.
For example. I have always wanted to play it.
Oh, he's getting it. He's getting
to
it.
the
He's
point
getting
that
it.
I have this.
Yes. That's the cool shit right there.
Yeah. And I've tried playing that game time after time after time. And I just cannot manage it because it hasn't aged well. It's a great game, and I definitely give the merit that the game deserves because loads of people love it. And I think I would have loved it if I could have played it when I was 6 instead of now, because it would have been a completely different ballgame. But my laptop when I was 6 made it go all like ultraviolet colors and stuff.
What?
So yeah, legit. The game went full. I don't even know what color. It was all inverted. There was purples everywhere. There was all these different things. I don't know what was going on.
What the fuck?
I used to have a picture of it because I remember sending a picture of it to my like brother, asking him like, "Do you know how the hell to fix this?"
Is this
and
normal?
He was just like, yeah, he was just like, "I've never seen that happen to anything on anything ever." I was like, "Neither have I. What am I supposed to do?"
Maybe I think you should have played through the game. I wish you played through the entirety of that game, and then like when you actually come back to it 10 years later, it's like, why does my game look so bad when it's meant to look how it's meant to look?
But no, that was the thing. When I actually got into the game, it was only the menus that suffered with this problem. When I was in the game, the actual graphics of the game looked fine. Well,
what the?
They looked fine for the day and age that it came from. But like when I was playing it, but like it was only the menus. I went into my Pip-Boy, it was all inverted colors again. Like my main menu, inverted colors, all of that. And I'm not sure if that was a flaw because something we can get onto later. Actually, I'll leave that until later. But like Bethesda and Interplay have had problems with keeping their games able to be played easily on newer technology, and I think it may have come down to it was just one of those things that I had a specific piece of hardware that really fucked with this game, and that and that's pretty much. And so that was my experience of Fallout 1 and 2. I tried to play both. They both went inverted colors on the menus for some reason. I never managed to complete further than I got probably an hour or 2 in them. they weren't quite intuitive. I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be doing. I knew I was supposed to go and fix the vault. Did I hell know how to do it? No, I went out, I died to a
Did I
red scorpion
fuck?
like every time. Like literally, I
Yeah.
left the vault and I died to a red scorpion. Like that's pretty much how that game went for me.
My thing with Fallout 1, so I played Fallout 1 originally on my old laptop like a few years ago, before I had a gaming PC. And it was kind of the first like big PC game I like wanted to play, because like everyone's fucking talking about Fallout. Everyone fucking loves Fallout. I want to love Fallout. I think I started that game from the beginning 3 different times because I fucked up 2 of my other characters somehow.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing that happened to me. I basically got myself in this endless cycle on one of my try attempts where I kept on dying because I had accidentally gone to this higher level area, and there was this like level 10 red scorpion or something that I just couldn't kill. So I just died every time.
Yeah.
And it happened to me twice. And so I was just, and that was after on my 3rd go, I finally got past this like shitty, weirdly area. And then I had no idea what I was doing. And so I was just a bit like, right, okay. And I always told myself, I'll come back in a couple of years. I'll understand it then. I've never gone back.
I think on the most recent character I did, I got about halfway through the game. And that was I really enjoyed it. I think the only reason I didn't go back to it is because I kind of moved on to a different game by accident. I might have been modding New Vegas at that point. I might have just moved on. But I was actually really enjoying Fallout 1 for the most part. Fallout 1 was actually really fucking cool because one of the things I really loved about Fallout 1 and 2 is its atmosphere.
Yes.
The atmosphere in those games, they feel like not horror games, but they feel really like weighty with the atmosphere. It's something that like the later games tried to do, but like sparingly.
I think Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas did that fine. Fallout 4, when they went with all these bright new colors and stuff, they kind of lost that dreary atmosphere of holy shit, bombs have been blown up. We're in this end of the world times. I feel like Fallout 4 loses that.
It's interesting you say that, because not to move on too quick. We're gonna touch on it more later on, but there is a mod for Fallout 4 where you can get the Fallout 1 and 2 soundtrack in the game.
Talking about like soundtracks in other games. So there's a Fallout mod, and I'm gonna just touch on this because it's really nothing to do with the Fallout franchise, other than the reach it has. I play a lot of grand strategy games, and anyone that like watches my stream, etc., will know this, and anyone that just knows me knows this.
Yeah.
And Heart of Iron 4 has a Old World Blues Fallout mod, and in there they have the complete soundtracks for Fallout 1, 2, Tactics, 3, and New Vegas. And you can literally, in the events button, you can click on which one you want to play, and it sets the tone of you fighting as New Vegas or something. The other and it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's cool.
But the reach the Fallout franchise has had is insane.
It is insane. It is insane. It is crazy. It is insane. But yeah, Fallout 1, 2. I haven't played 2. Eventually I will, but they're pretty good games. I think they've aged. They 100% have aged. But if you can get past the age, those are experiences that you should definitely try to engage with. Plus, they're so cheap when they go on sale. They're insanely cheap. Like they barely burn a hole in your pocket at all. Like,
you pay 60 quid for it.
Or you do that. Or you fucking do that. I mean, either way, you get that shit done.
I think I was paying 60 quid more for the mini nuke than the games themselves.
To be fair, yeah.
To be fair, but yeah, like as like a last footnote to it, they were great games for the times. They really haven't aged well, and like, and that's coming from 2 players, people and gamers that really like to go back to old games. Me and Sam very much do that a lot. We go back and we replay these series of games all the time. And yes, we know there's gripes that we have with pretty much every series, as you'll find when we move on to other franchises in the near future. But I think it's time to turn on to Tactics. So Tactics is the unofficial Fallout 3, right? So it's the 3rd game in the franchise sequence.
Sequentially, yeah.
Yeah. And
a game I've never played.
It's a game I've never played either. It's
I've
the
never
first.
seen it.
So like before this thing, I was thinking, right, I knew what the game did, and I knew it changed from being turn-based to real time,
Yeah.
but I wanted to see that in action. So I got up like a 2-minute clip of a guy that had used fraps and was running at 10 frames a second or whatever.
Hmm.
And aesthetically and everything keeps the exact same feel, exact same game. However, they changed it to being real time instead of it's a real time tactical RPG is what they called it. Pardon me. Instead of a turn-based CRPG.
Yeah.
So that was the first major difference in this series of games that we see is that change from being turn-based to real time. And like, I don't think there's much we have to talk about with tactics other than they've done this change, and it's really cool to see how this franchise like develops within the same because this is
Yeah.
still done by Interplay at this point.
I think we're at this point in the series, we're at a very interesting point where they were trying to do brand new things with Fallout. Really, before I feel like the series had grown enough to warrant it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had 2 great games that did really well, but you had room for a few others in that line before you had to start making spin-offs. And as far as I know, people don't really love the spin-offs that much. I don't see a lot of love for tactics.
Well, yeah, I've never I know a couple of people that like tactics. I've never really looked into it. There's a lot of the massive thing that you get from these early games by Interplay are the lore aspects. And like when you go and watch like lore videos on Fallout and shit, oh my god, there's so much stuff that comes out of those games, in tactics included.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a unneeded change. It was a nice like from a current perspective to see a company risk the change in the game that isn't too massive, but it's enough to go, ooh, okay. That's the kind of thing I wish we saw more these days in franchises, because a lot of the time it's just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And I think that kind of risk was the wrong time like in the gaming industry to do it. But it's something that we needed to see more of, and it's unfortunate that Interplay's gone under. I think they eventually got bought, right, by Bethesda, but like
I think so.
But they just basically Bethesda just bought Interplay for all the IPs and not literally nothing else.
Yeah.
Which is a very Bethesda thing to do.
Fucking Bethesda.
Let's move on to the last Interplay game that was made by them, which is Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which is a game
I didn't
Sam
know
did not know existed. Yeah.
Until just before I hit the record button.
So I basically, the reason you'll see me, I keep looking off the side is because on my other monitor, I've put like a Google Doc just giving a brief overview of all the games. And so I wrote down Fallout 1 and 2, and Sam's like nodding his head, he's adding some stuff to it. Fallout Tactics, again, nodding his head, adding some stuff to it. I put Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, he's like, what the is that?
I was like, isn't that just tactics? And you were like, no. I fucking Google it, and I'm like, this is a console exclusive Fallout game? What?
PlayStation 2 and Xbox original only, just so you don't know about that. And yes, this is a game. I think it had a 42 on Metacritic, not Metacritic, on Metacritic. It was not a great game. It was a game that I played a lot. And I was just saying to Sam, like at this point, I didn't have a memory card for my PlayStation 2, so I had to keep restarting the game. And so I would be sitting there for like hours upon end trying to get further than I did last time. And I effectively started speed running the game because I knew everything there was to know about the beginning of that game. So I was just doing it like straight through. I didn't have to go around what's it called? Cannon. I think it's called Cannon, the first place. Or Canyon. It's a really shit name.
Where's it set?
Do
you know where it's set?
In the Mojave, if I remember correctly. It's back when the Hidden Valley Brotherhood of Steel was bigger, and you were a part of those recruits. It's either that or it was in the Western, in the Californian Brotherhood of Steel. I have to look that up.
I'm just wondering, because like a lot of the Interplay Fallout games were set in the same general region, which is kind of why Bethesda, when they made 3, decided to go to all the way over to the other side of America.
So Brotherhood of Steel, it was a massive shift. It was a massive shift. In 3 years, from 2001, I believe Tactics came out, and in 2004, this came out. Brotherhood of Steel went from being a real-time tactical or a turn-based tactical like RPG into a top-down third-person action role-playing game.
Yep.
And it is by far the biggest gameplay change that was made in this entire series, especially by Interplay. And ultimately, I think, if I remember correctly, Brotherhood of Steel was like their last ditched effort to try and keep the company afloat, and so they pumped everything into it, and that's what made them go bankrupt. That
I
is why
think
they had to be bought out.
it's an interesting thing to think about, especially back then, when a lot of like PC titles try to make their mark on the console space, because there was a very large untapped audience there. And that was back in the time where PC ports and console ports weren't like one and the same.
Yeah,
They
they
were
did not go well.
very different games developed by very like different teams.
Yeah, because to be fair though, back then there was a much larger disparity between the power of a PlayStation 2 and what you can put in a PC.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or an Xbox and the power of a PC. It was so big that you had quite literally had to just remake the game.
As well as like all the things of like, those games weren't just, they sure were not built to be played on a controller. Fallout 1 and 2 Tactics, like they are not meant to be.
Imagine trying to play those on a controller.
Imagine.
It'd be the slowest movement ever across the like.
It would be the worst thing in the world, right?
Oh yeah.
But
it's the same with XCOM. Like XCOM have done that like turn-based really well, that it works on a controller because they've used the blocks, whereas it's a free movement on a Fallout games, and that just wouldn't work.
Especially with all you think about the HUD. Like, how the hell would you get that HUD to work on a controller? Like, what?
You'd have to have like one of these. You'd have to have one of the more modern controls where you can have the like things on the back.
Yeah.
So the paddles, so you have not only a thing, you put the paddles on as well, so you just have it all together.
Yeah.
That'd probably be like the only way I think you could realistically do it like that.
I would love to, in a world, I would love to have seen what a PS2 version of Fallout 1 and 2 would have looked like. I would love to have seen that.
I really don't.
I would love to see how they actually would manage.
Imagine
to, like,
doing on the
pull
PS1 without the analog sticks as well.
Yeah.
Only D-pad. Mental stuff. Anyway, yeah. So basically, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, effectively sunk into play, as far as I'm aware. Tell us in the comments if I'm completely wrong. I have not done that much research into it.
We're
I
not
just
gaming
know
historians. We're just gamers.
I just know. Yeah, I just know that Interplay eventually got bought out, or the IPs at least got bought out by Bethesda Softworks, I believe in 2005 or 2006. Bethesda then went and completely overhauled the franchise into what everyone knows and loves today, and by making it a third-person shooter with massive RPG elements and a massive expanded open world with all this beautiful scenery. Even though it's all dreary and brown, it was really well done. And I think even for someone as colorblind as me, I can appreciate.
He's colorblind, by the way.
Yeah, I can appreciate like the differences and the subtle differences they play around the place, and like adding places like Oasis in Fallout 3, where you have that feel of going back to this forested, inhabited place that doesn't feel as dead. Do you mean doesn't feel as completely just gone? Fallout 3, in my personal opinion, best Fallout game. One of my favorite games of all time. I know we disagree on this. So he thinks it's New Vegas, right?
Yes.
I think it's Fallout 3.
Before we get too ahead, okay, so I want to say, I think we as gamers take it for granted that Bethesda, the Elder Scrolls people, made a Fallout game.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we as a gamer nation, we take that shit for granted, because I feel like if Bethesda had never made a Fallout game, we would be seeing the landscape as something completely fucking different. I feel like the fact that they took Fallout, injected it with all these Elder Scrolls isms, and then just made a very fucking unique experience is something that's very special.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
RPGs and stuff today would be completely different, especially like Metro, for example. You can definitely see like the Fallout twangs that they've done in Metro and things. And you see it everywhere. It's the same with the Elder Scrolls. Any fantasy title these days, you can see Elder Scrolls in it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it's the same with most post-apocalyptic things these days as well. You can see that Fallout influence. And I think Fallout 3 was such a well-made game. Like, bugs galore. Don't get me wrong. bugs
Mm.
galore. Like there's a glitch that is a part of the Capital Wastelands like entrance that you can go through a building and straight in to the Citadel and get your power armor training, so that from the beginning of the game you have power armor and you're basically invincible to all the low level enemies.
Yeah. We don't talk
That kind
about
of
the
shit
glitches.
shouldn't. Yeah, that kind of shit shouldn't happen in any game.
My thing as well is like, okay, so you go from Fallout 1 to 2 in Tactics, Brotherhood of Steel. We don't talk about those that much. I mean, they exist. But then you go to 3. And 3 is very different, not only in terms of gameplay, but in terms of what Fallout actually is. Fallout 1 and 2, mainly Fallout 1, was a very, very serious, like, kind of just like, thought experiment about what life would be like in a post-apocalyptic world, right?
Yeah, it takes all the gangs and it takes all the drugs and stuff that start going around.
Fallout 2 becomes more wacky. That's when they started introducing a lot more of the comedic aspects into the series. But what Fallout 3 does, Fallout 3 tries to do a little bit of both. They try to make a very serious storyline with a very serious open world with a lot of like moral ramifications throughout, letting you decide what you want to do in a moral perspective. But they also managed to combine a lot of humor. Like when you first walk up to the Megaton place and you hear the robot say, "Don't worry, the bomb is perfectly safe," and then you can get a side quest 10 minutes later which is about setting off the fucking bomb. Like moments like that make that game weirdly light.
But yeah, but
really cool way.
That quest I think is a perfect example of that moral journey you go on in that game. I think it's the right word, because you can go and blow up Megaton, but you can still, by the time you get to Blackrock, have a high enough karma that you get folks on your side. Do you get what I mean? Like, if that game lets you do some of the most evil shit known to man and still be a good guy, considered like Jesus at the end of it. What is it? It's like Capital Wastelands Jesus is literally like the top title or whatever for the good side. And it's just like comedic elements like that where you look at the things they were naming you as you went like down and up on the karma scale, and it's just like, what is that? Like, what?
There's something like comedic about being evil in that game as well. Like there's like on the evil path, a way to make money is by literally kidnapping people and selling them to slavers.
Oh yeah.
And like that is just so evil and so hilariously messed up that like when you actually do that with your character, it's hilarious. It's just so evil. It's evil.
Like when you get slave collars on people though, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you go so far away, your head pops off."
Your
and
head
like in
blows
most
off.
cases, it doesn't actually do it. And then you just see these slaves run off, and then boom, their head pops off.
And there's an entire like a good character would be like horrified. They'd be like, "What? What?" But when I first played the game with my evil character, I was like, "Oh, yes,
yes, go ahead." It just
I smell money."
Or it's just like it's like Forks. You just like, you're a good character, and then you just find a really intelligent super mutant who just fucks shit up, and you're just sitting back. You're like, arms crossed. I've done my good deeds. This guy's gonna shit on you now.
I gave to charity just so he could fuck you up. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just like things like that, and that is what like Fallout as a franchise changed to, and it made gaming so like the stat system and how you do bartering, how you get better guns, how you do block picking, the hacking and stuff. Like, what kind of game? Like, not many games out there. Mass Effect, right? Mass Effect has a hacking side to it. That hacking is so intuitive and so easy to learn. It has a very similar system, I personally think, to Fallout in like the way you're trying to match things, etc. But what game goes and literally puts a puzzle game inside the game just to do an actual hack? Like, yeah, you can randomly choose, and yeah, you can get lucky. But they like, a lot of people don't realize the whole likeness chart and stuff has a full-on like algorithm to it, and like there's ways to get like the brackets and stuff in the hacking, lets you get resets, takes away duds, all of these things, and it's such an intricate like hacking system that I think a lot of people like don't really pay much attention to. And I think it's such a well done system. Like, I just think it's a really good system. And the lockpicking is very basic. It's the same in the Elder Scrolls. It like, you can play games like Kingdom Come Deliverance, for example, where the lock picking, you literally have to find the spot in the lock, and then as you start turning the lock, you have to follow that spot with your mouse and follow the lock around until it unlocks.
Yeah.
Like that is so complicated to lock pick. You don't really need that.
Mm.
The lock pick, but like the hacking is where they've kind of got a bit overboard, and they've gone with the whole technological advanced like system where they have these proper hacking you have to do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's something great that they bring into it and they keep throughout the series, that henceforth. And like, it's like talking about the comedic value of it though, like bloody mess. That perk, I believe it's 50% more likely to get crits, and when you get the crit, you literally blow them up.
Yes, they explode.
They literally explode, and it's like, first of all, you look at it and you think, why do I need that? And then when you get it, it's like,
would my life really be better with that?
Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, 50% crit damage, I'll take that. And then when you see people blowing up in VATS, you're like, I need this shit every day. Like, even as a good character, when you're blowing up a super mutant and his parts are going everywhere, it's just like, yes.
You're like, good game.
Yeah, you're like, I'm a demolitions expert.
That brings up another thing of what this game kind of did amazingly, which was VATS.
Oh, yeah.
They managed to bring in essentially a system that was in Fallout 1 and 2, but they managed to bring it over to a first-person / third-person action game space and make it one of the best systems I've ever seen in an action RPG like this. Like, VATS is amazing.
Yeah, VATS is great. And like, a lot of big people's qualms is how you, for some reason, because you now have this Pip-Boy 3000 strapped to your arm. Do you know what I should have done? I should have put my Pip-Boy 3000 on so I could make like.
You should have 100%. You should have done that.
Also, if you don't know, I'm a massive Fallout fan, so I've got the Pip-Boy 3000 from the Fallout 4 special collector's edition to go along with my anthology.
What we'll do for the thumbnail is we'll just you do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it fits me though. I'm fairly confident it's too small to fit my arm. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah. So basically, it just stopped time, and it's like, well, I know you're getting like weirdly advanced in this universe, but like stopping time? Question mark. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's more of a gameplay thing though. That's not necessarily.
It is. I guess, but it was something that people did have problems with. Which is why I think Fallout 4 does it so well, where it doesn't necessarily stop time anymore. It slows down time, but you can like get around that like technically by being like, oh well, it's not actually slowing down time. It's just this is your decision making, and that's what slowed down. Because ultimately, that's what it is. It's full speed otherwise. Whereas in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, it is completely stopped. You just completely stop time to make a decision. Oh, am I going to go for his head? Am I going to go for his arm? Where are all the enemies at? Do you know what I mean? And I think adding that movement and their ability to still shoot at you makes it much more realistic and much better as a system, but it still keeps to that fundamental part of it, which is great.
I think VATS saves the combat in that game, because I think without VATS, I don't think the shooting in 3 or New Vegas is good. It's not good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel responsive.
3, I definitely agree with you much more than New Vegas. I think New Vegas, because of their ability to actually allow you to aim down sights instead of just zooming in on your crosshair.
Yeah, but even in New Vegas, it still felt weird.
Oh, it's bad. It's not good. But like New Vegas definitely allows you to do free shooting much, much better than anything you get in 3. Ultimately, 100%. In 3, you're basically potluck shooting at people, because the crosshair, I'm fairly confident to this day, did not really match up either. Like, sometimes
if you aim straight down, your gun model would be like below the crosshair, and if you aim straight up, it'd be like above.
Yeah, exactly. So like you'd be using the gun to try and line things up in the crosshair, and they just didn't really work.
It's like you're aiming at the general area of what that.
Yeah. And so like when you were fighting things like super mutants, where they were just big ass like monsters, and it was like, oh, okay, well, just hit them, innit? But like when you start fighting
this close, you kind of just
but then because it really added this like thing. It's like when I played Fallout 3, especially right at the beginning, you basically sprinted at people, stood right next to them, turned on that, stopped time, and just shot them in the head about 6 times.
Yeah.
Like, that was the legit way to play that game. And like,
or like you would just like walk into a big room and you know there's going to be combat, so you would just keep spamming VATs
yeah,
to
you'd
see
be
if anyone's in the
spamming
room.
yeah, exactly. And like while they like the little quips and like things you get with a game that you just love, there are also things that just shouldn't have had to have taken place. Like you should have been able to walk into a room and just go, right, okay, my perception skill is 10, so I know the enemies are here. So I should be able to just like snap to them and like aim like a normal person. But you can't do that on 3. You kind of have to go in there, use that, literally find out where they are. Because sometimes those places are dark. Which is something I think they do really well. But when it came to trying to do that first person combat without using VATs, you just couldn't see where they were to shoot them. And you were just getting bullets flying at you. Which I guess is really realistic. And it really, really sets that mood really well. But I think it definitely caused a bit of an issue in terms of that combat. But I think New Vegas brightened it up a bit enough to make that issue kind of go away. And that's why I think we can now move on to New Vegas, because Fallout 3 was definitely the game we had to talk about the most, because it's the one that makes that massive change. Also under a new game company. And it is also the one that sent not shockwaves through the gaming industry in terms of like RPG-esque, like that kind of thing, but it definitely made its mark. And I think that's why it's something it's very topical. It's very something you have to talk about a lot.
I think it does a lot. It says a lot that they were able to bring back Fallout. Like bringing back Fallout and making it a household name. Everyone knows what Fallout is. You know?
Well, actually, before we move on, talking about how they moved the region so well too. Like ultimately, something a lot of people don't realize is there isn't all that much lore really out there for the East Coast at the time of Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics. As far as I'm aware, again, people out there that know a lot more than me can correct me. From when I've read
things myself, Fallout lore channel.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I know my shit, but like I've never delved that deep into it. But as far as I'm aware, the lore behind the East Coast was nowhere near as great as you had for like the West Coast. So they've gone and they've like kind of pile drive their way in, because you have and like the way they've done the Brotherhood of Steel, for example, the Brotherhood of Steel, massive thing that was set up just after the war began / ended, because it took 2 hours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They set up, and their entire ethos was get technology, stop natives that don't know what they're doing with it from using it to destroy the world further. I love that. Do you know what I mean? Reclaiming old technology, and it's a great ethos. And so they've then been sent out, and that's ultimately the beginning of the game, in a sense, is that you've the Brotherhood of Steel, and that's like the big basis of that game, is that they've been sent out to the other side of the continent. They're going over there to the capital to see all the cool shit the capital had to offer.
That loot.
And that loot. And then you see the whole Brotherhood outcasts and how they've splintered off because they weren't following the directive, etc., etc. And the way that they tie this lore that they developed into Fallout New Vegas, because they talk about the Eastern chapter in New Vegas, and then Fallout 4, where they come up from Washington to Boston to sort the Institute out, pretty much, with Elder Maxwell, and how they reference the Elder Loins and stuff. Lions, even, I should say Loins. Yeah, I don't know how I said that.
That's the other chapter.
Yeah, that's a different kind of.
That's an entirely different
kind of steel. Yeah. I think that the way that they've kind of forged their own path in their own lore there, and added all this depth to it, and talked about like the monuments and stuff in Washington, and all these different things, and all these new factions and things that they got there, I think that's great. I think that's amazing, and I think that is definitely something that they did really well.
Yeah.
And then moving into Fallout New Vegas, which is the next game, there are very subtle changes in that. Number one, as I've already touched on, you can ADS. You can now actually aim down your sights,
yes,
which gave a much better freedom when it came to actually shooting. You didn't have to rely on VATs as much.
It's amazing to me 3 didn't have it.
It is.
It's
a very weird thing that they left out, but I
mean, in some ways, I feel like it kind of makes you feel like you should be using VATs, I guess. In a way, when you like purposely inhibit the player from being able to play the game in the way that's comfortable to them, it makes sense because then you're using the mechanics you've been given.
Mhm.
Although it doesn't really stand because in New Vegas, you still use VATS all the time.
True.
Like, I decided to remove VATS from the game.
The way I look at it is that they expected Fallout 3 to be played from more of a third-person perspective, and when they realized most people played it first, they then added the ADS, which makes it more first-person. Because in third-person games, you just get that zoom in, you never get the ADS, unless it's like a sniper or something, and then you get it. And that is exactly how Fallout 3 did it, which in my mind makes me think, why didn't they just keep it as a third-person game then? But I also think I would have not have enjoyed that game as much if it was only third person, because I don't think I'd have been as immersed. I think in RPGs and stuff that are third person, I'm generally less immersed while I'm not standing there with my gun in hand, running around with my Pip-Boy on my arm, instead of looking behind and just seeing this big hulk of a man. Like at that point, I'm like, oh well, I'm not going to die, am I? Like,
Well, you gotta remember that these are fundamentally Elder Scrolls games. They just happen to be Fallout games. So all of their design principles they did in Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, Oblivion, they've brought into these games.
Yeah, Fallout 3 definitely had like for example, in Elder Scrolls, being in third person, like in Skyrim, and seeing your fucking swords like standing out, you start fucking doing wind slashes and stuff.
Yeah,
That's cool as fuck to watch. That doesn't have the same effect in Fallout. They've left it in there. If you want to do it, go ahead. If you want to walk around, because like walking just around the world and that's like taking in the sights in Fallout 3, 4, and New Vegas in third person is great. It's great for that. Anything else in those games, I just think it's bad.
Yeah.
And then, but in New Vegas, the major changes they do is to the karma system, where they now have localized karma as well as your overall karma. I think it's a good system. I personally prefer just a general karma system because I found it really dumb. For example, after you do Good Springs, was it Good Springs? No, Wellsprings is Rage.
Yes, no, it is Good Springs.
Yeah, I was like, Wellsprings? Is it Wellsprings? No, Wellsprings is from Rage. Yeah. Right, okay. But no, when you leave Good Springs, the best armor you can have on hand at that time is the Powder Ganger armor that you can take off the people you kill. If you put that Powder Gang armor on, it gives you that like incognito thing with Powder Gangers. But when you walk up then to what's the name of the
NCR.
No, it's Riv, the casino place where the NCR are outside of. The one with the roller coaster.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, see what I mean? I need to look this up.
How do I not? Nipton? Not Nipton, right?
Oh, that's in the wrong game.
Nipton is in New Vegas.
No, Nipton's in New Vegas. That's a path you have to take. Second place you go to in New Vegas.
Is that gonna give you the results?
No, it does not.
Motherfucker.
New Vegas locations.
It's beginning with P? Novak?
No, Novak wasn't it. Oh my god. I actually hate this so much right now. Towns. Prim.
Right.
Prim.
It's Prim. All right.
I knew it was a P. I just couldn't think of what that was.
It's Prim.
So when you get to Prim and you go to see the NCR people outside, because of all the raiders and the is it the fiends inside or is it the powder gangs? I can't remember. Whoever is invading Prim, when you go and see the NCR, if you have the best armor available to you at the time, especially if you haven't got the speech to get the leather combat armor off of the trader, you then end up getting attacked by the NCR because of said incognito game mechanic, and it effectively punishes you for using the best armor available to you.
But that's not like you don't. That's dependent on what you choose to do. Because in Good Springs, you could join with the Powder Gangers, and then kill Sunny Smiles and get her leather armor.
True, but what I'm saying is, in that situation, you're still, but that's the problem, right? You can join with the powder gangers, you get the better leather armor,
Yeah.
and then you don't get attacked by the NCR. But if you don't join the powder ganger and use their armor, which is the best armor, you then get attacked by the NCR, even though you actually did the good thing.
In defense of the game, the armor system in New Vegas is not good.
It's not great. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not the best. It's a very confusing system.
I'm just gonna say that, but that incognito, like more the same with Kaiser's Legion, the NCR, the Brotherhood of Steel, etc., 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 is a great thing. They needed to make a bit more obvious because I did not know why the fuck I was getting shot at by the NCR. I had good karma. I was like, what have I done?
I love the idea of it. I just wish there was some kind of reputation system that, like, at a certain point would, like, precede it.
Yes.
So, like, people start recognizing you, even though you're in a powder ganger thing, they know who you are. So they're not going to just fucking kill you.
Yeah.
You know? It would have made sense for nobody. You just wear it and it was like, oh, it's powder gang. What the fuck?
But that's the thing, though, right? You put the powder ganger armor on, and you're exceptionally loved by Good Springs after you do that, right? Let's just say you don't join the powder gangers. They don't attack you because they've seen you put that powder ganger on, so they know it's not a powder ganger. But you can walk literally 10 meters down the road, pretty much, to Prim, and all of a sudden, the news of you taking out an entire powder ganger group hasn't reached to this place, and you get fucking mowed down for trying to play to the statistically highest level you can in an RPG game where the entire ethos is having the highest damage reduction and highest damage output. Do you know what I mean? And like that to me has always baffled me as a system. But I do love I do like that system of like being incognito. I think it just needed to have a bit more refinement. So it was a bit.
I view it as like, I love what New Vegas does in its first few hours, especially because it essentially says, look, we're going to give you a very baseline thing of what to do. Follow the quest. But if you pay attention, you can do something completely different. So the intended path is you help Good Springs, fight off against powder gangers, you kill the powder gangers. Pay attention, you can actually join the powder gangers and kill Good Springs. And that leads to an entire quest line at the prison where you can help out the prison powder gangers group and defend them against an NCR attack.
Yeah.
Which is an entire quest line system that you wouldn't get otherwise. And all it requires is for the player to just pay attention to the world.
Well, you just go, when you go and talk to Johnny Ringo, right, you have to just look at the speech options. And that's the big thing. A lot of people in Fallout games, which is something I've always thought is a bit heresy in my own like personal opinion, is they don't look through all the text options. They find the one that they think they would say, and that's what they do. And they don't look at it any other way. And while I do that, I always read every text option and then go, well, I'm going to just go with what I want to do. But now I know for future playthroughs, I can just go and be this evil shit if I want to go and do it. And that's what...
Speech in New Vegas as well, for me, is such an improvement because in Fallout 3, your responses typically were good guy, snarky, and awful human being.
You also always had this fourth option, which was like just a neutral.
Yes.
You were just like, okay, I'll help. Nothing else, or nothing like nothing more, nothing less. It was just yes.
Whereas in New Vegas, you started getting a lot more shit that was just neutral. A lot of it was way more neutral, which kind of made a lot more sense than just being these like arbitrary like.
I think that's where the karma system really came into its own more in New Vegas. I still prefer the way that Fallout 3 did it because I don't like I liked the idea of the location-based and faction-based karma. I did not like the way they implemented it. And that's why I prefer the karma system in 3 because it just has a worldwide thing where you have the Talon Mercs attacking you if you're good karma, and you had the Talon Mercs again, or it was a different Merc company that attacked you if you were evil karma, and then if you were neutral, you had raiders attack you all the time. Like, I like that. Having this like generic world thing that happened to you because of who you are, especially back then, especially if you were a good guy. Say you're a good guy going around killing all these gangs, they're gonna want revenge. So they're gonna get mercs, they're gonna get all this. And then if you're an evil guy, all the good places are gonna want revenge. So they're gonna get their mercs and everything. And when you're neutral, you're just going to get attacked by people because they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I loved that. That doesn't, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't happen in New Vegas because it's supposed to be the factions themselves are supposed to
Yeah.
love and hate you.
The fact if the NCR hates you, then they'll send out NCR raiders to get you, or like they'll send like assassins out.
But the thing is, though, if you want to be an absolute dickhead to all these factions, before you even get to the stage where they start sending, because I think you have to be level 10 or something before things like that start happening. You can just go to New Vegas, be an absolute dickhead to all these NCR factions, all the Kaisar's faction, everyone's faction. You can go to New Vegas and get them all removed. And I hated that. I hated that they just went, yeah, you know what? We're chill. No worries. You may have killed our entire outpost, but we don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine doing that in real
feel
life.
like that was them pussyfooting around a bit, because I feel like if most casual people play the game and didn't realize that, oh, I can join these people? Oh no. Like, they probably would have been like, oh, this game fucking sucks. You know?
But it's an RPG. Everything you do is supposed to be role playing. You're not 100%. Meant to just, like that. If it was just a generic action game, I don't think I would care that it does that. It's supposed to be an RPG first and foremost.
And as an RPG, I feel like New Vegas transfers Fallout 3 just a little bit, because in Fallout 3, my impact on the world is I'm good or I'm bad. Whereas in New Vegas, there's an entire list of factions that you can see. Either they love you, they hate you, they're neutral. And it feels so good because you feel like you're an actual factor in the world that everyone's taken into account.
But the thing is, though, there's like there is still that in Fallout 3, though, because it's not like such a in your face. Yes, you're losing karma with these people. You're gaining karma with these people. In Fallout 3, things like those faction karmas work depending on the decisions you make, more so than how you help them and how you disgrace them. And so, like, for example, using the FEV virus when you do the water to kill all the mutants and all the irradiated people. Do you know what I mean? Or changing things up as you go different places, how you leave Vault 127. Do you know what I mean? All these different things and all these different ways of completing the game and how you go about getting to that final effort does have that faction impact that you're looking for. And but I think it's nowhere near as noticeable because it's not telling you. And I think that's the big difference. And that's why for me, Fallout 3 is just as good, if not better, because it relies more on not only your actions but your decision making, whereas in Fallout New Vegas, and the reason why is because you can make these horrendous decisions for factions and horrendous actions you can do against these factions, and then you get to New Vegas and they're like, it's chill, dog, you took out half of our army, but who cares? Like,
that's 100% a thing. That's like a very annoying thing, but it's also like the developers trying to not piss people off.
I know, but like ultimately that takes away from the RPG play then, because ultimately, well,
I feel like it doesn't though.
But it does, because it
what they do is
all your actions should have consequences, and you don't have consequences with the major factions in that game.
They do, because what you can do then is that gives you the opportunity to fuck with them even more. Like, the fact that they give you a free, if you decide to kill as many NCR people as you want, and the guys are like, okay, look, you know what the fuck you're doing. We're just asking you to join us, please. We're begging you to not join Kaiser over there. You can take the opportunity and be like, fuck you. I'm going to take this pardon. I'm going to walk right into your fucking camp and just kill everyone in it. Like, if you really hate the NCR and that's your character will 100% take that, like, opportunity.
Yes, but my issue with it is, as a world faction, you would never get given that pardon if you've done that much atrocious stuff to someone. And that is my issue with it. Your actions should have consequences, and therefore you should not. If you've just killed on accident, like, let's say 3 or 4 NTR soldiers, like, for example, at Prim, you've gotten there in your powder gang armor, you didn't know what he was doing, and you've killed some NCR people. Yes, you should get hated for that, but it shouldn't vilify you in their eyes, which is why you can still go to the trading outposts and stuff afterwards, and it's fine. That's when the pardon is perfectly fine. They're like, okay, we want you on our side. We've seen what you can do. Yes, you killed a couple of us. It was all a big misunderstanding. Fair enough. But when you literally, like, I've done it. I'm not going to say I haven't. When you literally just go out there and kill entire camps of people, and then you go to New Vegas, you go in, you shoot Benny in the face, and then you come back out to a guy going, "We want you to join us. We know you killed pretty much our entire army, but here's a pardon." That shouldn't happen.
That's like a gameplay extreme though. Most players aren't gonna literally kill every single NCR character in the game.
Okay, no, but like, I mean, if you go past one or two, or maybe even a handful of the kills on a certain faction, you should not be allowed to get that pardon. Then after you exceed that amount, that's when you go, right, no, okay. It's the same in Nipton. When you get to Nipton and you have the Kaiser's Legion there, and you can kill those people there because you think that what they're doing is morally ambiguous, you can stop them, and then you can get a pardon because you've only killed one little tiny cohort. Do you know what I mean? It's a group of Kaiser's Legion that were pissing you off with what they were doing. And I think those two encounters are where it's fine to get a pardon from. Anything else you do past that is no longer pardonable material. Maybe from Kaiser, because Kaiser's a bit of a dick, but like, definitely not from the NTR.
On the topic of Kaiser, this game does something I fucking love, right? Kaiser is kind of depending on your outlook, he's the antagonist of the game. Or, depending on your siding, he's kind of the one where you could view him as an antagonist.
See, this is the thing I love about New Vegas that does it, which is better than Fallout 3 in terms of story and how it's written, is that there is Yes Man, Mr. House, the owner of the NCR, Kaiser's Legion, the Brotherhood of Steel. All 5 of these are ultimately antagonists in their own rights. The Powder Gangers, that's a 6th. You know what I mean? They all have their major impacts on the world that allow it to be antagonists, but they don't have to be. And that is something. Whereas in Fallout 3, it is effectively the Enclave or the Brotherhood. You don't have any in between.
Yep.
While I love not the linearity to it, but like I love the like straight cut and dry. You're either a good guy basically by going with the Brotherhood of Steel, or you're an absolute cunt and going with and going with the Enclave. Like, you have one of these two. Do you know what I mean? You have one of these two options. I do like how you can be both Brotherhood of Steel and Yes Man, for example, and then your antagonist at the NCR, Mr. House, and Kaiser's Legion, or you only want to go with Yes Man, and then everyone's in it. And do you know what I mean? And so that is the kind of thing I love, and that is something they did so well with New Vegas.
My favorite thing about New Vegas was the fact that you could just straight up kill Kaiser whenever you wanted to. You could go up to his camp and kill him and his entire thing. And the best part was the world recognized this. So NCR soldiers would be like, "Whoa, shit! You're the guy that killed Kaiser. Whoa, nice job."
The only thing I will say about that is there was actually in Kaiser's camp. There's a single guy. I can't. It's
I know what you mean. I know what you're
saying. Something.
Yeah.
The guy with like gray hair that stands next to Kaiser. He's the only one that can't be killed there, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
That's a Bethesda thing where they just decide to kill some NPCs, which happened again in our next game, Fallout 4. Because we need to move on.
Yeah,
we took way too long for fucking New Vegas. We could make
Fallout
an entire
3, Fallout 3 and New Vegas are like the games that we're the most
passionate
attached to, and I think like that was always going to be like the point that we're stuck on, and we don't want to move past. Like, before we do move on to Fallout 4, one thing I want to say about those two games, the DLCs for those games were perfect.
Yeah,
like, they weren't needed. You did not need those DLCs, but they were done so well. Old World Blues in Fallout New Vegas. The you have then the scientist one. I can't remember what it's called. You have like Broken Steel then in Fallout 3. You have not Fall Harbor. That's the wrong one. Point Lookout. All these different ones, and they've done so well. They add these extra areas and all these different things to the game, which is great. And that's exactly what a DLC should be. And I will always commend those games for that.
Especially to touch on the Lonesome Road DLC for New Vegas, which is basically the end of New Vegas, but like touched on more.
Yeah.
So what Lonesome Road, you've played the Lonesome Road, right?
Yep.
You know, like, I love how what they do in that is, depending on your relations with factions,
you can literally
You can nuke them, or you can decide to nuke everyone. But depending on like your relationship with the characters, Ulysses, the main character in that DLC, will react to you differently, and he'll teach you different lessons. And it's just big fan of that DLC. I feel like that's probably my favorite Fallout DLC.
Yeah.
Probably Lonesome Road, but yeah. Anyway, see if we
Fallout
can
4.
squeeze this into the next 11 minutes.
Wait, are we nearly hit an hour already?
We're 5 minutes away from an hour, but I gotta go with 3.
Yeah, right, okay. Fallout 4.
Right.
So the big differences in Fallout 4, as we already talked about, is how the VAT system has worked.
Yes.
So we had the VAT system turned into not a time stop, it was a time slowdown, which made a lot more sense. Settlement building was great addition to that game. It was something that I think everyone always wanted in Fallout, was literally you want to have that kind of impact on the world where you are building a faction. And I think, okay, the base system of it was not great, but the mod add-ons that they did for in-game modding on that was probably the biggest. Everyone likes that moment in gaming for a long time. And the way that they forced, like, PlayStation, Xbox, well, PC doesn't really care, but like, they forced Sony and Microsoft to be like, you dickheads are going to let us do modding on all of these games, and you better let us, and or we're taking all of our Bethesda games away. And they were like, holy shit, don't do that. So then they get like, yeah, multiple. And like, hands down, the best thing that Fallout 4 did.
hands down.
Because mod sport is amazing.
Yes, 100%. Every game should have it.
Yeah.
But Fallout 4 added something which I hate to this day, which is the voiced protagonist.
Oh, yes.
The voiced protagonist is something that is very, very debated. It's something people either love or hate. I think we're both on the side of hate.
I dislike. I won't quite go far as hate, because I do enjoy some elements of it, because it adds, because the game, however much I hate that it steers away from the full-on RPG experience you get in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, where it is you talking, it is you doing this, you doing that. I like the storyline they've taken is using Sean, his child, and I like the fact that they use it to tie into that. Outside of that, I dislike it, and that is why I'm not too much to the hate. I'm to the dislike, because the way they've used it works well with the story, but I hate the fact that they've used it in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you can very easily get a mod that gets rid of that to make your character silent, or you can just turn your volume down, I guess.
You just turn voice volume off, because ultimately, I believe your voice volume and characters' voice volumes are different settings. So I think they've actually kind of put it in there, so you can just turn it off.
It's interesting because the world feels a lot more dead, I guess, when you're silent, because the world is built around, everything's built around your character having a voice.
Well, because the way that the speech works as well is when you click it, it shows you. And it doesn't make sense for it to show you talking when you're not talking. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think,
as soon as I could, I turned that camera thing off, so it was just first person the entire time.
Okay, yeah, that works. But like,
that's broken as well, because you have to keep looking at whoever the last person talked is. So if you're addressing someone from across the room, but Nick Valentine said something last, you have to turn to him to talk to the person over there. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah, but like, yeah, so like, I'd say like, generally speaking, Fallout 4, the settlement building, like you can add mods like Sims, for example, which I recently showed you. Great mod. It makes it much more of an organic system, which is what that needed to be in the first place. IMO. Along with that, they went full hog on the faction system in this game, and I love it. I love the amount of endings and just different factions you can join, and how the factions are done,
and how different they are.
Yeah, and Elder Maxwell hates all these synths and stuff. Institute.
Not Maxwell, Maxon.
Yeah, it is Maxon. Who's Maxwell?
Elder Maxwell.
All right. Anyway, you have the railroad. You have the Institute. You have all these different things that you can do, and I'm just like, holy shit! Right, okay. And like, You can be synth lovers. You can be Institute haters. You can be both. Do you know what I mean? You can get Liberty Prime Mark II.
Yeah.
Honestly, that I've always been a Brotherhood of Steel guy, and so Brotherhood of Steel was ultimately my first choice. As soon as I saw Liberty Prime come back, I struggle to go and do any other ending when I replay that game, just because I always want to see Liberty Prime going.
One of the coolest
Communist scum.
One of the so I was Brotherhood of Steel first playthrough, and his second playthrough I went Minutemen. And one of the coolest things in that game is doing the Minutemen path and then having to defend the castle against the Brotherhood of Steel. And that entire thing ends up in you firing a cannon at the Pridwen, and then you see it like fall and just explode. And that moment, like after you've done a Brotherhood of Steel thing, you see that, and that moment is so impactful, and it's so cool. It's so cool to see that decision play out, and you go there and it's all rubble. Like, it's so cool to see like your choices have that much weight.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know
did that really well. It's
the same with like when you use Liberty Prime to literally blow a hole in the Institute. Do you know what I mean? You chuck a nuke at the Institute pretty much and go, fuck you, bitch. It's like, and like, but it have, as you said, it has these like everlasting effects on the world, which no other Fallout game did, other than maybe blowing up Megaton. But like, generally speaking, and the nukes in Lonesome Road, but that's an add-on. Do you know what I mean? No other like base game.
They're very isolated instances.
Yeah, you never had like a full-on. The story is you basically blow up part of the map. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just want to make a thing. I do love how Bethesda always somehow makes references to Welsh things, like the Pridwen, for example. Like, I don't know why they keep doing it, but they do, and I love it.
If you don't know, we're Welsh.
Yeah.
That's why we like it.
Outside of that, I think the color adding to the games actually is both a positive and a negative. I think it negatively affects the atmosphere of those games. I think the dark, dreary nature of Fallout and its post-apocalyptic world is really impacted by that addition of color, especially since the entire storyline is about your child getting nicked, and I think that dark, dreary outline would have been so good for that. Whereas, I think now, the addition of the color, though, brings the world alive in a different way. And like the radiation storms, the dynamic weather, all these things, it really livens up the world. But I think it takes away from the atmosphere. So it's really, it's very much like half of one, half a dozen of the other.
It's very disharmonious.
Yeah,
in a way, it doesn't.
It adds, but it subtracts.
It's like, I get what they're trying to do, and they're trying to contrast things, but it just doesn't.
It doesn't work with Fallout. I
don't think it adds. It doesn't add what it's supposed to add.
No,
at all, really.
However, I think that's probably the last thing to talk about. Fallout 4. Fallout 4, great game. Adds a lot of cool shit. Doesn't quite hit the mark for New Vegas Fallout 3. I think the atmosphere is a big part of that.
I think we could easily spend an hour on like these last few games.
Oh yeah,
easily.
Yeah,
like these are really condensed.
Like this is getting a lot more condensed because the idea of this like talk show is not to be like a full on 2-3 hour podcast. It's meant to be a hour long thing that we then condense into the major bits for a proper video, like a proper produced video, and then we'll have the full version if you ever want to watch the full version. However, I think we can move on to arguably the third worst game.
Oh,
wait, we're going with the best now?
Oh,
we're going to go with the third worst game in the Fallout franchise, in front of Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 76. So
the most tumultuous game in the series.
Yeah, I've always wanted a online Fallout game. This did not hit the mark. Holy shit. When I thought online Fallout game, holy Christ, this is going to be amazing, I expected a Fallout game that allows me to play with my friends. Not just, oh, here you are, here's a Fallout universe, this is a Fallout world, but you get nothing of a Fallout game. You have to listen to holotapes to do quests. It's like, you have holotapes to do quests. And it's like, what? Like, I love the addition. Oh, something we never touched upon is survival mode that New Vegas brought in.
Yep.
And Fallout 4. And that is like an implementation that is instantly just had to do. Your hydration and your eating has to happen in Fallout 76. I like that. I like the fact that's in, and it's not part of a hardcore mode, which just makes the game more difficult. I think these should have been things in the games anyway.
Mm.
But yeah, it was very poorly done. We have actually recently played a good few hours of it in
post
the
a big
Wastelanders
like
update.
expansion update
in the
thingy.
Wastelanders update. It's still not good. It is really hard to play. The settlement building is actually worse than Fallout 4. The workshops you can get don't make any sense. Like, it's just a bad game. Like, it's a great universe and the world is beautiful and there's so many good things about it. But because the core of the game is so bad, it's just bad.
I feel like anyone who knows anything about gaming probably doesn't need us to tell them that Fallout 76 is bad, but it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. And like, we can probably talk about it a lot more. I think it'd be a needless discussion though, because we just be highlighting things that everyone knows. I feel like this one was definitely on the Fallout topic, much more about Fallout 4 and the precursors, more so than Fallout 76, because Fallout 76 is
everyone knows.
Yeah, it was the front line of so much bad press that if you didn't hear about it, then are you really a gamer? No, I'm joking.
You a gamer, bro?
But no, like,
plays 476, bro. No.
90% of all gamers and just game lovers in the world after the launch of Fallout 76 just knew how much it went bad, and like there was so much hype for it. I don't think the hype helped. I think the hype really, really ruined it even more. A bit like Watch Dogs, where Watch Dogs was actually a perfectly good game, but it was not the GTA replacement that everyone wanted it to be. And that was why, it's a shit game, terrible game. No,
it
was a good game. You're just expecting something that it was not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very similar thing with Fallout 76. God, I did it. I expected it to be Fallout 3 or New Vehicle or even 4 stuck online so I can play with Sam, so I can play with my other mates. Do you know what I mean? Not a Fallout game stripped to its bare bones, giving us a world and go, here you are, go and do your thing. We're not going to really do anything else. And that's it. And ultimately that's what that game ruined. But I think that is all.
That's all because we went over time on the first episode.
It's probably gonna happen every time.
And we started later as well.
Yeah, that was my fault.
If you liked this, give it a like. Say you liked it. Say hi in the comments. Say how's it going. Give the channel a sub. Let us know if you want to see maybe a part 2 to the Fallout one, because we barely touched on some of the things there towards the end.
We could definitely do like a highlight video that's talking about Fallout New Vegas a bit more in depth, and Fallout 3 a bit more in depth, and Fallout 4. Like these last few games, I feel like we spent a lot more time on Fallout 1 through Brotherhood of Steel than I thought we would, and I think that's where we both kind of gone, oh shit. So yeah, we can definitely. I think we can definitely. There's no reason why we can't ever revisit any of these franchises. We have, I believe, I think it was 12 different franchises that we already know we want to talk about.
Yes.
And they're going to come out fortnightly, hopefully. Maybe not all the time, because I can sometimes be quite busy and so can Sam.
We'll see. We're not going to have time. They come out when they come out.
Yeah, they're going to come out. We're going to try and make them fortnightly. They probably won't. It's ultimately or it'll be. So yeah, we got quite a lot of series that we want to talk about.
Either way, let us know if you like it.
And drop your suggestions down below as well.
Check out the links down below for our Twitch, for our Twitters, for his YouTube channel, for which the long unedited version is going to be going up.
Yeah, with the full versions are going to be on my channel, just so that people that enjoy listening to all the filler and the unnecessary stuff can
all the shit that we got wrong.
Yeah, and that, because ultimately the condensed version will be taking the major points that we took on each game.
Yes.
So you can have a much more valuable look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but we talk about a lot. So
if you want background noise, check out that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, would do that. And if you're seeing this, you're probably already there. So
yeah, you're either there or this is gonna be the only condensed version that we have all this rambling at the end of.
Yeah.
because I guess this is useful information for any further episodes of it.
Yeah.
Also,
Either way, no, we're running out of time.
I'm gonna say also, I hope you guys enjoy the name that we eventually decide on.
Yes, as the untitled. It's not. We'll get there. We'll see. We'll see.
Spent a couple of days. Look, we've got an entire list of name ideas, and one of them we both think is a good one to use, but it is so generic and it's literally its own hashtag, and we're just like, we can't use it.
You'll find out if we use that one this weekend when this comes out. You'll find out. You'll find out if that's what we resort to. Or you'll find out the much better, amazing name that we magically
will come across,
came across. Either way, we'll probably tell you that it is in fact the amazing name, but you'll know. Yeah. You'll know.
And hopefully next time it'll actually have a title, so when we record our next one.
Yes. Yes.
Even before we just call it the Untitled Game Shit Talk Show.
Yes, it's going to be that. It's going to be that. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Aaron, for being here with me in these quarantine times. And yeah, look forward to the next one, I guess. Check out our shit down below, and have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.